We finally made it. I've been teasing the heck out of you guys for this moment right here. Welcome to the launch party of, mirrored right there, Unseen Work. The book is out. The website's up. The TED Talk is up. That was a cool bonus. I didn't know that was going up this week. And now here we are talking to one another. So check out the book. I'm going to leave this ticker up basically the whole time. You can check out milesbiggs.com, new website, /unseenwork for details on the book, some special offers, and some other cool things around the book that we'll get to. So go ahead and check that out. We are going to have a lot of conversations tonight. So I want to hear from you. Hop in the comments and say hello. Ask me some questions. When you do that, I can pull it into the stream like this, and we can have some fun. I can pull your screen up. If you really want to get crazy, let me know you want to come into the stream. I can actually invite you to broadcast with me if anybody's feeling adventurous. Let's just have some fun. It is a party in my mind. I want to have fun because I'm just excited to everybody. So please be sure to comment. So, all right. Got to stop saying so. I'm just excited if you can't tell. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take you behind the scenes of the process of publishing this book on Work. I'm going to read a little bit, right? If this was an actual like book signing or in-person authors event, there'd be a book reading. So I'm not going to sit here and read all 166 pages, but I'll read some of it to make a point and give you guys a taste of the book so you can check it out before you pick up a copy. Then I'll be answering your questions. I'll be giving away signed copies. So stay tuned for that. Raffle off some of these bad boys with my signature on it. And then I'm going to talk about at the end a really cool collaboration that I'm very, very proud of and excited to announce around Unseen Work. So really cool stuff. So like I said before, I see them lighting up already. Thank you guys. But leave those comments. Hint, hint. Going back to that giveaway for signed copies. Who do you think is going to get in the running for one of those? Leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you and answer your questions. But before I answer any of those questions in the comments, I can almost guess what the first question is going to be because I've gotten it over and over and over again throughout the process of telling people that I'm writing a book, right? It's this one. Myles, why did you write a book? Of all the things you could do, why did you write a book? And not just that, but why Unseen Work? What's that idea? Where is it playing? You know, why'd you write a book? So I'm going to start with that. Let me answer this one right off the bat. So why I wrote Unseen Work started, believe it or not, about 2 years ago. And someone in the Strivent Mastermind community, butch that word, Strivent Mastermind community. So shout out to that group, Dennis McGinley. If you're watching, appreciate you, man. And he's in the book. So they asked me if I ever thought about my podcast, Relish the Journey, as qualitative research for a book. And I honestly never had. To me, a podcast was a podcast. The book was a book. Hadn't thought about it at all. But after they just kind of dropped that little line at me, I started thinking about it. It followed me around all the time, sort of poking into my subconscious. And around the same time, in another one of those mastermind calls, we were exploring some topic of personal development. I really don't remember what the topic was. I wish I did. But we had this moment where everybody's, you know, one thing, the phrase Dennis would always say would be like, what are you getting present to right now? What's coming up for you when we're talking about this? And I dropped this one-liner on everybody. And this is where it all started. I said, you have to do the unseen work so that when you are seen, you have something to show for it. And I sat there and the group was, quiet. And this is a group of talkers. So it's weird for there just be like a full pause for everybody. I saw that collective pause. I saw the people writing it down, asking me to say it again. And they kept mentioning how much they loved the idea, sort of like the jaw hit the floor moment when I said it. It was one of the few times in my life where I had an idea that really, really resonated with a broad group of people. And so I wrote it down. And similar to that idea of thinking about the podcast as research, this idea of doing the unseen work so that when we're seen, we have something to show for it, that kernel of idea started pestering me as well and following me around. And so I just decided, let's see if I can make the two work, right? So I started listening back to the first 100 episodes of Relish the Journey. So to put that in perspective, that was a while ago. Episode 200 is going to go live at the end of December. So the first season of Relish the Journey, I started listening back to it. just writing, listening to the episodes, writing, stream of consciousness, my reactions to the interviews, what the topics we're talking about, having in the back of the mind that maybe this unseen work idea, that phrase, could work into it somehow. And my initial thought was going to be, I would literally write a whole book about the first 100 episodes of Relish the Journey, call the book Relish the Journey, maybe work in this unseen work idea into it. I never thought it would be a standalone thing. But I got through about 15 episodes and I'd written over 100 pages. So I realized, okay, if I do the math, 15 episodes, pages, if I go to 100 episodes, there's absolutely no way anybody's going to read this like 800 page, freaking Benjamin Franklin biography type thick book about my podcast, right? So I had to take a step back, and then I really started looking hard, and that's where that one-liner came back into play. And I started realizing and noticing that my guests on their show, you get on a podcast because you're promoting something. I'm doing podcast interviews right now, talking about this book or the TED Talk I gave. But, what I liked the best about interviews was it wasn't so much about where people were, it was how they got there, right? That Relish the Journey, that moniker, unseen work, it does very much tie into one another. And then I just realized that their most interesting stories came from that, how they got there. And then once I realized that, I was like, okay, the book's not the podcast. The podcast can feed this unseen work, and that's going to become its own thing. Then the book just started writing itself. For whatever reason, it just all clicked. I was putting in all this time writing, just thinking, taking free-form notes, and the unseen work thing just hit. And I just started, taking that and framing it out even more. And I came up with different types of unseen work, which you can hear about in the TED Talk, or, you'll read about in the book, which, by the way, if you want to check out the TED Talk, it's on my website now. You can go to milesbiggs.com/TEDx, and then you can watch the talk or search Myles TED YouTube. It'll show up. That'll give you some more context to this, but it literally just happened. So let me read to you that, right? First reading of the book, author's reading. So here's this bad boy. I'm going to just read the types of unseen work the way I put it in the book. I say it in the TED Talk, but I'll read it for you from the book. You get a taste of what the book's about. And then I'll talk to you about, how the TED Talk came into play, right? So here you go. So we're talking about unseen work for the book. I talk about in the talk and I talk about in the book 3 types. So here we go. The first type is generational unseen work. And in the book, I define it like this. The only reason any of us even have the opportunity to pursue our own unseen work journeys is because of those who came before us. This type of unseen work is often invisible even to ourselves. It's the hard-fought lessons of our parents and grandparents, their parents and grandparents, and beyond. And awareness of generational unseen work will make it clear that what we may call luck is really the result of our ancestors' resilience. Ultimately, each generation stands on the shoulders of the generation that came before them. This type of unseen work begins before our earliest memories. Even the seemingly invisible or mundane happenings from our youth culminate over years and result in the foundation for the way we view the world and how we show up in it. And so in the book's separated into sections of these types of unseen work. So with the first section being generational, I bring you stories from my grandparents and my parents, who they are as people, how they grew up, and then bring that all into how that's affected me. And like I said, in the world from the generation before me. And I love this idea. And when I talk to people about unseen work and bring up generational unseen work, people really resonate with this far and above anything else. I've had people cry about it when they're reflecting on their families and how much they love them and how much they've done for them, right? It's just awesome. So the second type is active unseen work. Building on the foundation of our generational unseen work, this is a knowing focus on and pursuit of a specific goal. It takes place when we are aware of the fact that we're on a journey towards a well-defined end, and we are taking purposeful steps to achieve what we've set out to accomplish. Continuing our education with a degree, developing and executing a specific plan within our careers, or even cleaning our homes all contain elements of active unseen work. Most people only see the diploma, successful corporate event, or the dog hair-free living room. What they do not see is what it took to reach those milestones. Active unseen work reinforces the idea that while you learn about something by studying it, you learn how to do something by actively doing it. What do you think of that? Huh? See the comments lighting up. Let me know. Third is passive unseen work. So if active unseen work begins with the end in mind, passive unseen work is simply choosing to begin without knowing where your efforts may take you. This consists of seemingly unrelated lessons and experiences that when added together produced a significant preparedness for a moment in time we never knew would arrive. By its name, passive unseen work may seem like the contrarian to active unseen work. However, it's ultimately the accumulation of unrelated active pursuits, the cross-fertilization and compounding of each experience in unique ways. These are the hindsight is 2020 moments of our lives, the connecting of our own dots. As we look back on trials, tribulations, and triumphs, we can see how they've all brought us to our current levels of success. So there you go. 3 types of unseen work. And the book, like I said, when I talk about generational, is split up into those sections. So I've got people from the podcast, how the podcast plays in, podcast guests that emulate generational, active, and passive unseen work. So it's not just a book about me, even though I do all this stuff and talk about myself and talk a lot. I don't really love talking about me. I much prefer highlighting other people's stories. I think that's more fun. And so the book does that. And so once I had that outline of podcast guests, I then get rid of that banner. I don't need that banner. Once I had that outline of the guests, at the same time, I was looking at TED Talks for a reason. I was just motivated. I refound TED Talks and I loved them and thought to myself, I'm going to start one of these events. You know, why not? It's how my mind works. I love it. Let's do it. And I didn't know that one already existed. So when I was doing my research to start a TED event, I found one that already existed in Williamsport. And I noticed that there were only a few days remaining for their speaker submissions and that talks had to fit their umbrella of the next chapter was the name of the event. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. This is almost too perfect. How do you get to the next chapter? Unseen work. That's how, right? So I applied and then I sort of forgot about it and went back to living my life and working on the podcast and things like that. Really working on the book outline and fleshing it out so that when I dove into writing, I could just bang it out. And then a congratulations email showed up in my inbox one day that I've been chosen to submit a speech in person, to audition in person. So at this point, I'm like mildly freaking out because I didn't really expect anything to come of it. And I actually had applied so quickly, I forgot what I said in my application and had to go find it so that I could actually write a speech around what I told them I'd write a talk about, right? So moved from book outline to speech outline, and I wrote the TED Talk. And I told myself, you know, this was like the do or die for me. I was like, if I get this TED Talk, then I absolutely have to write the book. If I don't get it, maybe it's the universe telling me, keep doing what I'm doing, right? And so went all in on speech writing, and I delivered my 5-minute version to the panel of judges. Very bizarre. If you guys haven't done that, to audition to give a speech to like 8 people, it's a very vulnerable feeling. And I gave it, and I had that similar moment of silence, like when I had the initial one-liner with the mastermind, right? And what broke the silence, one of the judges literally said this, will you coach me? And I was like, first I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll coach you. That didn't end up happening. But to me, I was so pumped because that meant it resonated. The silence, that will you coach me? They got it, right? And so, spoiler alert, I've said it, right? I got the TED Talk. It was in October. The talk's up now. You can check it out on my website or on YouTube. And I then went all in to the book because I knew the TED Talk was going to happen. And me being the marketing guy, I was like, this is great marketing for a book, right? Have a TED Talk, push them to a book. So it made sense. So that's the why, right? And I see these comments. Please keep them coming. Thank you. I'm going to get to them after I answer this question, which I get all the time, is the how, right? So cool. You had the idea. You were into it. You got the TED Talks. That's why you wrote a book, you know, all that good stuff, right? But how did you write it? You know, people that don't really know me that well kind of think I'm nuts. And maybe even people that do know me very well think I'm nuts. But I do a lot of stuff. And so a lot of people ask me how I fit this in. You know, I've got a full-time job at Mojo Active, and I'm the director of digital marketing right now. When I started writing the book, I was still at my previous employer, Ritz-Craft. And, you know, so full-time job, I'm a husband, I'm a father, you know, I do the podcast, you know, all these other things. How did I fit this in, right? So I often joke about this, that most people think writing a book means you have to escape to a cabin in the wilderness, pull out that typewriter, drink a lot of bourbon, and then emerge a year later with like super long beard, just smelling funky, and you've got a perfect manuscript that you take to your editor and you're a writer, right? But this is 2020, right? The world doesn't necessarily work that way. Some people can do that, but not me. I wrote this 166-page book literally in increments of 30 minutes or less. So in about the same amount of time that it takes you to stream one episode of your favorite TV show, right? I wrote a book, and I try to stress that as much as possible with people, because you guys could write a book. All you guys watching this, you could write a book. You have something to say. You could start a podcast. You could write a book. The hard part is consistently writing for those 30 minutes, not necessarily writing for those 30 minutes, right? We can do so much in small amount of times as long as we commit to it on a daily basis. So if you're thinking about writing a book, let this hopefully get you going. You don't have to do it for hours at a time. I wrote this book on my lunch breaks. I wrote it late in the evening. I wrote it while walking my dog, thanks to like a voice to text dictation. Literally, I wrote it in the shower. I'd get an idea, pull my phone out, turn off the water, type it or talk it, and then finish my shower. I wrote it in the gym on the treadmill, typing stuff. Whenever inspiration struck, I always made sure I had something to capture the ideas, and then I pieced it all together. Wrote in planes and cars. I look back, 2020, 2019, I wrote it in Las Vegas. I wrote the book in Minnesota, in Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. I wrote it in cars, all over the place. And the biggest lesson I learned about writing, and to me, this idea has taught me, part of my unseen work, is that I think you just have to be a conduit for the idea. You can't force inspiration, but what you can do is show up every day so that inspiration knows where to find you, right? I think when we wait to be motivated, that's why we don't do a lot of stuff. But if you show up every day, then inspiration knows where to look for you. And I wrote so much crap, guys, so much crap that didn't get put in the book, but I had to write that crap to then get to the little nuggets that were great, piece it back together, and then edit it. So I started writing in July of 2019, and then I sent my first manuscript to my editor in January of 2020. Shout out Kathleen Majorski, who was that editor. Appreciate you. She helped challenge me so much, fixing my silly mistakes, telling me when I needed to say more or shut up and say less, and really helped me force out the true heart of the message. So shout out Kathleen. Thank you for that. So that's how I wrote the book, one little bit at a time, right? So the COVID effect, everybody. That's another thing I wanted to touch on, because I think this is interesting when we talk about unseen work. This year has been unseen for so much of us, right? I started working from home in March and still working from home. Our company's not going to go back until next March, and then it might get extended. So we're all working from home for the most part. People can't see us. We feel disconnected. So what do we do at that time, right? I was planning on publishing this book in April because the TED Talk was supposed to be in April, but it got postponed until October. So I had 6 months where I had just had this thing on a shelf, and I was, frankly, candidly, I was pissed. When they postponed the TED Talk, I was like, no, let me do it, right? I'll wear a mask, let me do it. Because I had been working on it for a year at that point, and I just wanted the thing out there. But honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I could put it on a shelf and not think about it, come back to it and, tweak it, have a different perspective on it, change it, manipulate it a little bit. But then it also allowed me to realize that this is so much more than a book. Unseen work is not just a book. It's not just a talk. I really think it's like a way of life. I'm going to make this damn thing a movement with your help, because I think I needed it. I needed unseen work. I needed that permission, I guess, for myself to say, like, I don't have to be seen right away, and that there's some beauty in what happens when no one sees you, when you mess up when no one's watching, right? So we all need it. I think so many people need it. And I'll touch basically on this. I'm not trying to make this launch a sales pitch. If you guys are interested in it, you'll find me. But what I mean by this is, I created a mastermind group. I said I got the idea in another mastermind group. I created my own, and I beta tested it with people. So shout out Myles, Kathleen, Julian, Jen, Katie. You guys know who you are. Hopefully you're watching. I'll see if you're in the comments. Appreciate you all so much. These people literally agreed to give me, 3 months of their life, one night a week for an hour and a half, to see if this idea worked. And it did. It was so cool during this 12-week mastermind program to see the idea of unseen work go from stuff on pages, stuff in my head, stuff that I was implementing in my life, watch other people implement it, and see the results and how it empowered them and how it affected them. Just the power it had was amazing. So I actually worked that into the book then and let people know, hey, you don't have to do this by yourself. You don't have to feel unseen. We can be unseen together, and together go from unseen to seen. And so that would not have happened if it hadn't been for COVID. So, all right, that was, 20 minutes of me talking. I'm gonna go see what you guys are saying in the comments. So let's scroll up. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. So many. So let's do some shout outs. What's up, Myles? Trevor, thanks for tuning in. Nick Mann, thanks, buddy. Oh, here's Kathleen being cute. Trying to be cute. What's it like working with an editor? Kathleen, you were a great editor. Thank you. Grandma, I'm happy to be at the party. That's awesome. This is my grandma, everybody. She is part of my generational unseen work. She is in the book. Her story is really cool. So pick it up. Here's Katie. Katie, what's up? One of the masterminders I was saying. Katie, thanks so much. Again, happy you're here. Who else we got? Anybody just saying hello? I got some questions. I got to come back. Jen. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate you celebrating me. Let's see. Yep. Shrivent, shout out. Woo. Lisa Tuccio. She's another guest of Relish the Journey. Thank you, Lisa. Combine your two names, Lisa. Lisa Tuccio. Thanks for joining. Here's my dad. What's up, Dad? My dad literally is probably my biggest fan. I think he's listened to every podcast I've done. And I've done between two podcasts, like almost 300. And he listens to them all. So, Dad, love you, man. You're in the book, too. My dad's story. Pretty cool. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Dave Cooper. The guy who taught me how to do this. Talk about unseen work. This guy. Tune in every single day at 1 p.m. on Dave Cooper's LinkedIn channel for Dave Cooper Live. He committed to doing a year of 6 live streams a week. This guy's putting in some serious unseen work. And guess what? He's also in the book from stuff even before what he was doing. I got some cool stories with Dave. JC McDonald, hello. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So much guy. Okay. Wow. Overwhelmed by the comments. Thank you. Okay. I'll vote for bourbon. All right, Ken. You get that bourbon and go write your book. So I'm going to scroll back up and get into the questions now. So I'll answer some of these. So Kathleen, can you share how I stay motivated to keep writing? Did you have any slump moments or blocks that you have overcome? How did it play out for you? Great question. I don't know how I stay motivated other than, actually I do know. Okay. Because it is hard. I did hit slump moments and stuff where like I said, I was writing and it was just like crap. Like I'm writing it. I'm like, this is crap. I think I even wrote the phrase, this is crap in my Google Doc. But what kept me motivated is I told literally anybody that would listen to me that I was writing a book. And so to me, I need that level of accountability. I need to know I have to answer to people. And I don't want to go back to that person when they ask me, hey, how's the book writing going? And I say, oh, well, it's not. That to me is like the worst thing I can imagine. And so that motivated me. Also, applying for that TED Talk motivated me because that put a finish line for me. So that's a tidbit I'd offer someone. If you don't have a TED Talk coming up, give yourself a deadline if you don't have an imposed deadline, because you need to have that end in sight. Otherwise, you'll find other stuff to put in that place of the writing time. So the TED Talk happened in April. That was the deadline. So I told everybody, I knew the TED Talk was coming up and my goal was to release the book right after the talk. And so that kept me going. That's how it played out. So thanks for that question. Let's see. Got another one here. A bunch. Okay. What's up, Carrie? Fellow Lycoming warrior here. Shout out Lyco. So hardest challenge, ever get writer's block? So similar. Yes, totally got writer's block. And what I did for the writer's block was I had to open myself up to write at weird times. I'm literally not kidding. I'm not being hyperbolic. When I say I wrote in the shower, I wrote in the gym, or wrote while walking my dog. I have so many voice memos in this thing. I was actually looking at practice TED Talks I did. I got to save these because one day that's content gold right there for what I went through. But I've got little audio message snippets. I would text myself, email myself. So the hardest challenge, because that's how I got through writer's block, was I didn't say I'm only going to write during these times. I wanted to write at least half hour like straight in a day, and I'll do that. But then I was writing in and around all of anytime inspiration struck, right? And that helped me move through it and stay motivated. Hardest challenge, my gosh, hardest challenge was like figuring out how to publish this thing. There are people that like you can hire book coaches, pay them thousands of dollars to navigate how to get your book on Amazon, how to get in Barnes and Noble. There's all these like, what buttons do you click in the back end? That was hard. And maybe more tedious, like anything's hard, but you got to work at it. So I taught myself a lot because again, held me accountable. Like I wanted to learn and just be very invested in the process. And so I worked through it. So thank you. So Jim Scott, why did I choose the subject? So I got into that a little bit. Why though? I needed this. I needed this book. I wrote this book and I say it in this very selfishly that I needed to be reminded that I was in the middle of unseen work. And so this was like very much a reflective, me working through my stuff exercise. I started this book when I was in the throes of some anxiety stuff. And you know what, Jim? All right, I'm going to read from the book again, guys, real quick. Take a break from questions. I started the TED Talk off this way, but let me read this from the book. So I put it in the book, and, you know, I get kind of vulnerable here, but I think it's important to share my, you know, parts of my story. I'm not perfect, right? And I wrote this because, you know, as a 29-year-old, I was kind of learning what anxiety and panic attacks are for the first time, for whatever reason, stuff going on in my life that I had to figure out, what do I do with this? How do I function and not let this like take hold of me? And so for me, part of what got me through the anxiety stuff and to be a much better mental state with my mental health was writing this book. So I wrote it for me to kind of work through it, and now I hope it can help other people. So here's a little bit of that, Jim. I appreciate the question. So here's the preface. Very, very much beginning of the book. I still have the TED Talk the same way. I'll read a little bit. All right. So I killed myself, metaphorically, 8 months before my 30th birthday. I woke up one day and had an epiphany. It was as if I had been jolted awake from a bizarre dream or an out-of-body experience. I could just see a version of myself making terrible decisions and ridiculous rationalizations. When I finally woke up and looked around, I barely recognized my own life. From the outside looking in, I had it all: a high-powered career, six-figure salary, loving wife, beautiful baby boy, a brand new home on a few acres of land, the respect of my peers, and seemingly nowhere else to go but up. At face value, all true. But deep down, I knew the truth was that my gut was screaming at me each morning, literally. I woke up every morning to intense panic attacks that brought me to my knees and face to face with the almighty porcelain throne. Each new day would begin with me heaving into the toilet whatever had managed to escape my digestive system overnight. Now, doesn't that sound like a guy who has it all? So after seeking help to this way, and after many months of more work on myself, it became clear that I had been chasing and living a life that I only thought I wanted. I'd spent years slaving away to live up to others' expectations and had not paid attention to the lamenting of my inner creator. Eventually, and somewhat sadistically, he made sure I heard his screams. Rock bottom for me was when I had to take my first antidepressant to simply get through a normal day of my own life. I placed the blue oval on the tip of my tongue, kicked it back, and exhaled deeply. As my head came forward, my glance rested in the mirror upon the piercing eyes of a stranger. Before me, all I could see was the hollow shell of a person living his life for other people and not for himself. Every under-eye wrinkle chronicling years spent denying the truth and foregoing the pursuit of fulfillment in favor of success. At that exact moment, I erased that stranger. So kind of deep, kind of heavy, but that in many ways was when my active unseen work started, and all that stuff I really believe I had to go through to get to this point, and it passively compounded, passive unseen work, to where I am today. So thanks for that question, Jim, and thanks for tuning in. Danielle Biggs, shout out my little sister Danielle. Hey, plug for Danielle. Go check out knitbethlehem.com. She's making kick-ass knit handmade items, hats, scarves, cat toys, scrunchies, bringing back scrunchies, all at knit.bethlehem, is the name of the company. It's knitbethlehem.com. And I think there's a promo code Journey10 for podcast listeners, right? Or now unseen work watchers. Get 10% of your order. So thanks, Danielle. A little ad for you, but proud of my sister. She's doing cool stuff. Started that business during the pandemic. So more proof you can do stuff. So yes, Danielle, there will be an audiobook version. Once I get through this initial launch, I've got all the podcast gear. I'm going to do it myself. Another thing I'm going to teach myself and learn, and it'll be fun. Let's see some other questions. These are awesome, guys. This is fun. Anybody else having fun? Let me know if you're having fun in the comments. I'm having a blast. This really is a party. All right. Hey, Nick, thanks for tuning in. I met Nick when I gave a talk at CP Squared panel event, Central Pennsylvania Creative Professionals, Penn State student, sought me out after the crowd, and we keeping in touch. He's doing some cool stuff. So thanks, Nick, for tuning in. Glad you liked the TED Talk. Diane Langley. Diane, thanks for watching. Diane was my communications professor at Lycoming College and taught me so much about how to do exactly what I'm doing right now, talking to you all. So, Diane, appreciate you being here. All right. Let's see. Who else? Okay, cool. Trevor's involved with CP Square, like I just said. What's the difference between generational unseen work and privilege? Ooh, good question, Trevor. So I don't think generational unseen work is always positive. And so it's not always a privilege, right? The generation that came before us does influence who we are today and how we show up in the world, but it can bring a lot of baggage, right? You know, a lot of people who have parents and family that they have drug addictions and, you know, really bad relationships with money, and right. That's all what you get. That's the card you're dealt, right? From your generation that came before you is perhaps all these bad things. So, excuse me, it's not necessarily a privilege, right? It's just your generational unseen work. And now once you realize it, you define it, you name it, you chronicle it, you get to decide how you actively go forward. You can shed the stuff you don't want to perpetuate and bring to the future generations, and you can keep the good stuff. Because what's really cool, and I get into this in a book, and it's really motivating for me as a father now. My son Mason's going to be 3. I have another boy who's going to be born at the end of next month, is that everything I'm doing, this right here, is the unseen work for my kids, right? Everything I do, both unseen and seen, is going to affect how they show up in the world, and it's going to become their generational unseen work. So that just motivates the heck out of me. So cool question. I appreciate that thought. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I think the answer is that generational unseen work isn't always a privilege, but it's there, and we have to decide what we do with it. Andrew Seeley, another carryover from Dave Cooper Live. Thanks for joining, man. Unseen work is a useful and valuable term. Well done bringing the attention and meaning to it. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. What supports you more, getting the book on Amazon or directly on your site? Hey, good question. Hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you go through my sites, it's an affiliate link. So I think I make like 30 cents more or something. I appreciate the question, JC, but it's all fulfilled by Amazon. I'm not keeping inventory. I didn't want to worry about e-commerce and shipping and taxes, right? They do what they do best. I'm going to do what I do best and sell books and talk about it. So dealer's choice, my friend, but I appreciate the question. So Dave, how has all my interviews changed my view of life? Good question. So it just simply has, right? I think it's hard to pinpoint one way, right? But every interview that I have on the podcast, I think about. It's like I have these really high-powered conversations in the moment. And what's cool is when you're creating content, before you publish it, no one else sees that content, right? Unless you're going live. Like right now, I'm creating content and you're all along for the ride that are watching. But when you do a podcast and it's recorded, it's very intimate. It's just you and that other person. And it's just yours. And there's something cool about it's not on YouTube for everybody to watch or it's had millions of views. You have this little kernel of wisdom that is just yours right now until you decide to hide it. Not hide it. You can decide to hide it until you decide to share it. And that's cool. And so like I get to live with it and experience it and reflect on it before I share it. And that's just neat. I feel very privileged that people allow me to be a steward of their stories. So I just take all this wisdom. It just becomes part of me and it affects the way I, show up. There's like podcast unseen work, right? I take that with me, with what you see. Part of it's what you don't see in creating the podcast. George, hey man, thanks for joining in. Yeah, man, it was a bucket list for me. So I bet you have a lot to say. I hope you write one. 30 minutes a day. You can do it. I'll help you get there too. If you need help, you need an accountability buddy, ask Kathleen who's tuning in. I get really creative with my audio text message reminders to keep people on track for their goals. So I hope you do it, man. All right, water break. Let's see. JC again. This is monumental. I don't want to take away from it, but what have you thought about what is next? Fair question. I'm doubling down. Short answer. I'm doubling down, JC, on unseen work. I want to create an ecosystem on this idea. This idea will change people's lives. Yes, that's cliche, but yes, it's also true. It's changed mine. I've seen it change 5 others that did the test, and I know it's going to change more. I think there's power in naming things. There's unseen work all around us, but until you recognize it, you put it into the buckets, and then you create your roadmap of how you go from unseen to seen. It's just this thing. You're just treading water, but you can control it and you can put it to work for you instead of having it work against you. So what's next? I'm going all in. You're going to see a lot more of this unseen work. Most notably, I'm going to do a podcast, but it's going to be a live stream where I'm going to get people on. And like I did, I want to get everyone in the book. So if you're in the book and watching this, you're going to hear from me again because I want to interview you again, even though we did it on the podcast. I want to catch up with you, see what you're up to, find out what you're seeing for right now, and then all the unseen work that it took to get there. Very direct questions along that messaging line. do live streams like this and then release it as a podcast. So that's, stay tuned for that. Another Myles. I have to call this guy Stones. Inside joke for the Strive It Masterminders, because how weird is it? We're both named Myles. But hey, man, thanks for tuning in. I want to shout out Myles. When you guys go to milesbiggs.com right now, he built that. I helped a little bit, but his company is called Heart Funnels, and he specializes in building websites and heart-centered marketing funnels and marketing support for coaches. And he helped me out, and he did a freaking awesome job, and he's a pleasure to work with. So go check out Myles Hansen. I believe it's myheartfunnels.com. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Hopefully this sends some people your way. All right, let's see. A lot of just positive comments. I don't mean to scroll over those, but I'm just getting at questions. All right, Katie Williard, another podcast guest. And Katie, I actually have to give credit for introducing me to some other folks I had on the podcast, one of which made it into the book. So she was a connector, and I really appreciate everything she did. So thanks. So did I ever fear that people wouldn't care about what you had to say? And if so, how did you overcome that fear? Totally. This is one of the things that Kathleen made me take out, was all my self-deprecation. Because I was like, in the intro, I'm kind of like, I was like digging at myself, right? That you probably don't care what I have to say, right? But here I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, I think it's weird. It's weird and kind of arrogant to write a book, right? Like, it doesn't get more like vain than like your name right there, right? Like, look at me, I wrote a book. So it is weird. Like I said, I don't love, like, as much as I'm in the spotlight, I don't always seek it out, or like I don't need to be in it. I just do it because it's part of often facilitating other people's stories, right? So it was weird. I did feel like, why would anybody read a book that, at the time a 29-year-old was going to write? Like, I still have so much life to lead, right? But the more and more I did it, I just said, it's not really about what I have to say. It was more, I just focused on the people's stories that I'm showcasing. That's what it kept coming down to, was it's not about me. And even with the TED Talk, what got me over my fear there of speaking to people was, it's not like they're here to hear what I have to say, but like they need to hear what I have to say. Like they need this idea. I made it more about the idea and the stories and not about me per se. And then, so that separated it for me. It made it about me, more about the stories, more about the idea, more about what the idea can do. And then that removed that like weird ego thing. So that's how I overcame it. But that's a great question. Luke Dorman, one of my very good friends, groomsman at my wedding. Appreciate you hopping on, Luke. And this guy got a new job recently, so go check him out on LinkedIn, where he's tuning in from, see what he's up to. Appreciate you tuning in, Luke. And let's get to your question. Can you speak to how creating your own content has changed your approach on creating content for others? Yeah, good question, man. I make so many mistakes creating content for myself that when I create content for others, they absolutely benefit from it. I experiment like crazy doing my own stuff. I go quick, I go fast, I fail forward, right? And, I just go for it because it's me. And I'm not doing this to make millions of dollars. It's an experiment. In many ways, it's fun. It's a creative outlet. And so I just do it. And so what I learned doing my own stuff then in my day job at a marketing agency, I can go to a client then and say, hey, I did this. This is what I learned not to do and what to do and what worked. And I could take those strategies and then apply it to them. So it definitely helps. And it also, I have an appreciation for when a client is a little bit timid and they don't want to talk about themselves, or to Katie's other question, they feel like no one's going to hear what they have to say. And I can come from my experiences and let them know that, okay, yeah, like it will resonate with them, right? Here's an example, and it helps bring it all together. So thanks for that question. All right, I think I got through all the comments. Lots of positive affirmations here, which I really appreciate, everybody. So, wow, thank you. Crazy. There's like 50 some comments. I got through all the questions. So I'm going to pop back over to some other things here that I wanted to take you through, right? So look at that. There's the book. This is that slide I was saying that Stones helped put together. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this, right? So all these questions we're talking about, please keep the questions coming too, by the way. I'm just taking a break from those and we'll come back. You go to milesbiggs.com/unseen-work. You can pick up the book. And this bonus I'm talking about here is discounted pricing on that mastermind. So you can check out the stories of Myles and Katie and Jen and keep scrolling. And you've got Kathleen and Julian, everybody who joined the test, and hear what they have to say about unseen work. Don't just take my word for it. But when you click this button, you sign up, I'll get your email. What I'll do is I'll send you info for the mastermind. I'll send you a link to buy the book. And there'll also be a link to book a call with me so we can have a one-on-one conversation about unseen work, what it means for you, what you want to be seen for, and how maybe I can help. So go ahead and click the link in that little ticker that's going by. And I believe it was in the description of this stream when we had it live. You can go check that out. And I'd love to talk to you more about it. This is also what it looks like on Amazon. They've got this cool look inside feature, which is pretty neat. So you can read some of the chapters, get a feel for it. $14.99, not too bad. Ebook is on there as well. And I got some ratings. Check this out. If you guys buy the book, please leave me a review and a rating. When it comes to how our world is just run by machines, basically, the algorithms love this stuff. So if you guys buy the book, which thank you so much, I greatly appreciate it. I would appreciate it even more if you could do that small favor for me and leave a review, leave a rating. And look at that. Here's a funny story, okay? This is an aside. This isn't really about the book, but it's just funny. So the TED Talk is up, and this went up yesterday. Is it yesterday? Yesterday or the day before, I don't know. But it was real quick. But I had the whole book published, and I was launching today, but it was kind of soft launch. I wanted to get copies in the hands of the people in the book. It says, like I went all in. It's based on the TEDx talk. I went for it. But the TED Talk wasn't out yet. I even say in the book, hey, I got the TED Talk. Go to my website and check it out. But it wasn't up there. But an example of unseen stuff, right? I did all the work in the background, and then magically it still happened and worked out. And now it's true. I'm not a liar. You can check out the TED Talk. And there I am. My salmon jacket at all. Got that. Fun fact, again, in Charleston, South Carolina in early March before the pandemic hit. My wife and I took a trip, and there it is. Shipped it back. So fun tidbit. So there's the TED Talk. Check it out. So I am going to talk about this collaboration now. So I want to bring back up a comment because this is cool. Where is he? This guy. So Nick Mann tuning in. Nick, if you're still watching, go ahead and drop whatever links you want to in the comments. After we're done, I'm going to link to it as well. And also, I already have the post scheduled to go out around 6 p.m. tonight, so about 15 minutes away. We're launching a contest where you can win some free stuff around this collaboration. But Nick Mann, I met him in that Strive It Mastermind group. Really cool guy out in Washington State. His whole goal is to turn dreamers into doers through motivational prints and designs. And that aligned so well with unseen work. He was in on the ground floor from the very beginning with this idea because he was in the mastermind and was helping me just kind of bounce ideas off. So really, really excited to announce, everybody, the Myles Biggs collection over at typoprints.com. That's TYYPO prints.com. Starting with 3, I'm sure we'll expand it if you guys patronize it and buy some stuff. But starting with 3 simple prints, all quotes from the book that Nick took and artistically made into prints. So this is the one that he's sending to me that I'm pretty pumped about. This is that one-liner that started it all. Here, I'll zoom in on it, right? Quote from me. Do the unseen work so that when you are seen, you have something to show for it. So the contest is going to be a way that you guys can win a framed copy of what you're looking at right now, plus a signed copy of the book, all to help promote Typo Prints and Nick and the awesome stuff he's doing, and me and unseen work in the book and all the stuff I'm doing, teaming up to bring you guys some awesomeness. So I appreciate Nick for featuring me on his site. So let's go over and show him some love, buy some prints. Those details will be coming very, very shortly. So there's this one. And then I'm going to bring up another one. Click on this bad boy right here because this is another thing I want to touch on when it comes to the book and the TED Talk. This is one of my favorite parts while that's loading. You guys don't need to watch that. So what I'm going to show you once it loads is a big thing from unseen work, I think, especially when what you do when no one is watching, is failure, right? All those conversations about writer's block and motivation, right? Basically, you could rephrase it. Hey, Myles, when you fail, how'd you get back up and keep going, right? The way I see it, and I talk about this in the book, I talk about it in the talk, and this is one of those things that if you implement it, I know it'll have a big impact for you. Failure is going to happen. You just choose how you react to it. So you can flip failure or you can flop because of failure. So the flip, and here it is, it's up. The flip is FLIP, right? Fail, learn, improvise, pivot. So you fail, you're going to learn from it, you're going to improvise, you're going to pivot, you're going to change the way you do stuff. But the most important thing is you keep going, you re-engage. You have to take a step back to take those leaps forward. It's really not a failure at all at that point. It's learning. It's a setback, not failure, because you continue to try and innovate and improvise and get there, right? Or you can flop. So when you flop, you fail, you lie, you obsess, you pretend. You fail, you lie about it, deny it, whatever you want to call it. You act like it didn't happen. But then secretly inside, it's eating you up. You're obsessing about the fact that you failed until you rationalize the way, pretend it didn't happen, point fingers at others, right? You don't learn anything. You're probably going to make that same mistake over and over again. So flip or flop, you can get this hanging on your wall now. How cool is that? As a reminder that it's up to you every day. You choose. Your success is in the air, just like that coin, right? It's in the balance, and you decide if you want to flip or do you want to flop. So that's that cool collaboration, right? Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. And then check my socials. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be on Instagram. I'll post it in the comments on LinkedIn about how you guys could win a free framed print from Nick at Typo Prints and then a signed book from yours truly. I'm going to pick a winner next week with Nick, and we're going to announce it on my Instagram stories, and then we'll coordinate in direct messages, get your shipping info, and get you your stuff. So a little thank you from me to you for supporting this project and showing up on this live stream launch, doing that for you guys. So that's really exciting for me. All right, we got more comments coming in. Let's see who we got here. Look at this. Nick's got the link. My sister's putting it on her Christmas list, Nick. Look at that. All right. I'm sorry. I'm scrolling up. So yeah, Jennifer, I'll post a link in the comments about, leaving a review on Amazon. I do think though, and I'm not just saying this because I want to sell books. Amazon's gotten smart with reviews and they know if you didn't purchase it or not. So you do have to buy the book to then leave a review and have it count, but I'll send it to you anyway. So you guys can share it with folks, but also buy it as a gift and then review it, right? It's stocking stuffer season. This will look pretty good just peeking out of the top of a stocking. Am I right? All right. Trevor, say what? I'm guessing he means about the collaboration. He likes it. Allison Fry, her podcast episode, everybody, another Lycoming College graduate, a very, very just motivational. You talk about motivation, something in her life she went through, her mindset about it, crazy. Coming soon. Subscribe to Rolls the Journey. Listen to what Allison has to say. And Allison, I appreciate you coming on the stream here. Jen, look, Nick, you're getting so much love. This is awesome. I'm so happy for you, man. We're going to sell some prints, send people to Typo. Also, if you go to Typo Prints, use promo code UNSEEN, get 10% off. How about that? I'll leave that in the link too. There's that for you. We got that set up because Nick is awesome. All right. So, Nick, what made you decide on the red-white color scheme? Hey, good question, man. Okay. So, and Kathleen is going to comment on this. I know she's active in the comments. One of my favorite authors is Simon Sinek, right? And if you read his book, Start With Why, his cover is white and it's red. And I have that book and it stands out to me. So does Grit by Angela Duckworth as white and gray and red. I really just looked at other books that I've read and loved and thought were in similar sort of genres to what I was writing and then went with that. Plus, shout out Eastern Area High School. When I went to school, their colors were red. And it's just a power color, man. I think it's a powerful idea. You take back the power in the situation, and red is power to me. So I went with red. So that's a really fun question. I didn't think anybody asked that. Thank you. Dominic Ruffran. Dom, thanks for dropping by and saying congrats. Guys, Dom, if you don't know Dom, follow him on LinkedIn, where he is right now. Dom played in the NFL, and now he's putting out really like a mix of funny and like crazy educational content on LinkedIn through some engaging videos all around finance. And he's working with athletes on that can transition from professional sports to civilian life, for lack of a better phrase. He's doing some good stuff. He was on the podcast too. So you can go search Relish the Journey and hear Dom's story. So Dom, thanks for being here. Trevor, I know, right? Don't I? That's why Nick's sending me one. I am going to have that print behind me. It's going to be part of my subtle branding. But you're right. That's why I'm getting one. So we can have it behind me. They're on the way. There you go. Yep. See, here's I knew she would swoon. She loves Simon Sinek. What is Jen saying? Grit. All three look amazing. Thank you, Jen. Jen put in the unseen work behind Dave Cooper going live for 6 days. She's not always on camera, but she is making it all happen. So shout out to those two. Appreciate you guys in a big way. Thanks for being here and for that huge compliment that I'm in the same conversation as those folks. That's awesome. Dad, red and white are the colors of the Polish flag from Mom. There's that too. I am of Polish heritage, and there you go. I just need an eagle on it, and we're good to go. And you go down. So good. All right, everybody. This has been fun. Did you guys have fun? I had fun. It is crazy for me to think about that a year and a half, 2 years ago, this little kernel of an idea has sprouted into this crazy thing where all of you are spending almost an hour with me. People are buying the book. People are watching the TEDx talk. People are going to be joining the mastermind. And I am so excited for what's to come for me, for my own unseen work, for all of you with your unseen work. Together, we're going to go from unseen to seen in a big way. And I just appreciate everybody so much for joining today and for all your support. And I would be remiss. I did it in the book. I don't put her everywhere because she's a little bit more private than me, but I would be remiss if I ended the stream and did not publicly thank my beautiful wife, Claire, for all of her unseen work, supporting me in delivering the unseen work to you. She is by far my biggest cheerleader, my biggest critic in a good way. She pushes me. She calls me on my stuff. She's not just my yes woman telling me everything I do is great. And that's what makes me who I am, is her. So Claire, you're going to watch this back because right now you're doing the unseen work of driving home from work and picking up our son and doing all the family stuff that you do so well. So thank you. I love you and appreciate everything you do to support me. And again, to all of you, my family, everybody that's in the book, everybody that's going to be on the live stream, all of it, thank you all. And that's what I got for you. So I'm going to follow up. Like I said, I'm going to put links in these comments for the book, for reviews, for the mastermind, for the collaboration, all of it, so that you guys can enjoy it and go from there. And please, as you guys embark on this unseen work journey, I'm going to bring my website up again, okay? There are contact things all over this page where you can contact me. You can book a call with me. If you don't want to join the mastermind, that's cool. I would love to just hear your story. I can't tell you how reaffirming it is for me and awesome to hear people identify with the words I've written. So tag me in your Instagram stories. Hold up the book and snap a photo. Let me know you're out there. Let me know what it's doing for you, because that just gets me excited. And who knows? Maybe there's going to be an Unseen Work 2.0 or a second edition where I have to add some more stories, and it could be yours. Right? All right. So I am also going to reach out individually to y'all that commented, and I'm going to let one of you know that you won. Sorry if you expected me to announce it, but I'm going to go through. I didn't even read everything yet. I got to read all these comments, and I'll pick one of you and give you a book for free. I'll let everyone know in the comments who won, so you know it's real, but I'm going to pick somebody, and I'll sign the book for you and get it to you as a thank you for tuning in. So thank you for commenting and your quote unquote entries as comments, and appreciate you all so much. That is what I have for you. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Happy Friday. Unseen work just getting started, so stay tuned.